Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima, and welcome back to the Race Edit. And if you're new here, welcome to the Race Edit, and welcome to a new pod episode. Welcome to round 3 of the Formula One 2025 season. And this week we are talking about Suzuka. We're just gonna get right into it because you know what? Did anything happen this race? Did anything happen this race? And that's not even me being mean. I love Japan. I love the Suzuka circuit, but wow, this was you know, not the best Formula One race we've ever had, was it? It was a race. I can tell you that. A race was had. And shout out to the pundits because they were really trying to make it as entertaining as possible. And this is no shade to the drivers. It's just not a raceable track right now. And, you know, maybe one day we'll get there. Maybe with these new 2026 regulations, like we were supposed to do with these 2020, with these regulations that we're in right now, you know, cars will be able to drive in dirty air and be able to do overtakes, yada yada yada. But what a race we had. So have my handy dandy notebook as per usual, and we're just gonna get right into it. Pretty much how this race ended was how we qualified. If you look at our qualifying, we had Verstappen won. He got pole position. A great pole position for Max Verstappen. Took P1 away from Lando Norris just like that. He really put it together. Then we had Norris 2, Piastri 3, Leclerc 4, Russell 5, Antonelli 6, Hadjar 7, Hamilton 8th, Albon 9th, Behrman 10th. Then we had Gasly, Sainz, Alonso, Lawson, Sonoda, funny, Hulkenberg, Bortoleto, Ocon, Doohan, Stroll. That was our qualifying. Let's have a look at our race results after the Japanese Grand Prix. We had Verstappen, P1, Lando Norris, P2, Piastri, P3. Okay. Sound familiar, anybody? Guess who was P4, y'all? Charles Leclerc. Then we had Russell, P5, Antonelli, P6. Now, this is where things get a little bit fun. We had Hamilton, P7, and then Isaac Hadjar, P8. Then we had, guess who finished P9? Alexander Albon. And then Oliver Behrman in the points for Haas, P10. Alonso, 11. Yuki Tsunoda went up a bit he could finish 12th throughout the overall race. Then we had Gasly, 13th. Sainz, 14th. Doohan, 15th. Hulk, 16th. Lawson, 17th. Ocon, 18th. Bortoleto, 19th. Stroll, 20th. Shock. I could have woke up, watched the race, went back to bed, and I would be like, okay, apparently the race didn't happen. It was just qualifying. That's really what I could have done. So this is not really going to be a race recap. This is probably going to be a pretty short pod episode if I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to talk about whatever the heck happened this race that I guess was entertaining to me because not too much happened this race. So the first thing I want to say is with Max Verstappen finishing first this race, that means there's now a 1 point deficit between him and Lando Norris for the Drivers' Championship title. So Lando Norris is up 1 point in the standings right now behind Max Verstappen. And I just want to say something about Max Verstappen. He's good. Listen, y'all know how I feel. But one thing about me is I will never, ever, ever discredit a good driver. A driver who can put it together. And Max Verstappen really did that this weekend. He did that this weekend. And do with that what you will. When we talk about what this means for the rest of the season, though, with that 1 point deficit, I want to go into Yuki Tsunoda for a quick moment. Because as we know, Yuki Tsunoda finally well-deserved promotion to that Red Bull seat, to that Red Bull team. After racing in their junior team for goodness knows how many years and being overlooked by many other teammates, he finally got that promotion at his home race in Suzuka. Was it the best debut season for Yuki Tsunoda? I mean, debut race for Yuki Tsunoda? No. However, finishing 12th is probably not the best when your teammate finishes first. But first race in that Red Bull car, no testing prior to. We saw him overall throughout the weekend, and he actually was really keeping up with Max, made a mistake in qualifying, and that's how we ended up where we are. And obviously, there was pretty much no overtakes. There was just no opportunity to actually overtake this race. So I am really curious to see how Yuki Tsunoda fares in Bahrain, and I think in Saudi next, because he's a good driver. We know he's a good driver and he can put it together. He can put it together. Yuki Tsunoda of yesteryear is not the Yuki Tsunoda of this year. And I think more than anyone, he understands what this role means. And I feel like I don't want to speak too early on it, but I do think he's gonna outshine not Max, but like the likes of the Lawsons and the likes of Checo in his final year, specifically at Red Bull. So I'm really, really hopeful for Yuki Tsunoda's time in this Red Bull seat. I think everyone is like, yeah, understandable about how the race finished for Yuki this race specifically, but obviously as the races progress, if he's still finishing extremely behind Max, I don't know. I don't think it's a problem with. I still wouldn't think it's a problem with Yuki. It would be a problem with the car. It would be a problem with whatever's going on in that second seat. That's what I have to say about that. But Max would need a second teammate to really, really be up there with him if he's finishing first in these races for strategy. And I will talk about strategy with McLaren versus Red Bull in a moment. But yeah, we cannot. The Red Bull car is not fast enough yet to be solely reliant upon Max for every single race. You know, they were able to get away with it for the past 2 years. But this year, today was lucky, and he really did what he needed to do to win the race. To win the race. When we take a look at Isaac Hadjar, while we're on the Red Bull topic, the Racing Bulls car is a good car. It's a top midfield car that could really, given the right day, maybe potentially get a podium this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Isaac Hadjar on the podium this year. Liam Lawson finished 17th. I'm curious to see. It's hard because Suzuka is a track that he knows really well. It was his first race back with the Racing Bulls, however, and he's had more experience in that Racing Bulls car than Yuki. Yeah, than Yuki has had in the Red Bull car, the senior team car, because Liam Lawson actually got practice where Yuki didn't. I'm not too hard on either drivers this race, especially Lawson-ish, but we'll talk about them next week. Yuki, I'm still giving Yuki another 2 more races to really get up to speed. Maybe, who am I? Who are you giving Yuki 2 more races? I'm giving Yuki as much time as he wants because he deserves this. He deserves this. I do want to talk about my 3 rookies in the points this race. Isaac Hadjar, Kimi Antonelli, and Oliver Behrman. You know what? Exactly. Exactly. As we know, this race, Kimi Antonelli became the youngest Formula One driver ever to lead a Formula One Grand Prix, breaking records already. Young Kimi Antonelli. I think Kimi Antonelli is so funny. I think he's a really great driver, and I said this from the very start. Give him a few races, and he's going to be right up there with George Russell, and we saw that today. He really held his own. I think Kimi Antonelli's radios are the funniest thing because he literally sounds like he's going through like a war zone in his radios. But man, I'm really rooting for that kid, which is crazy because I left Mercedes along with Lewis Hamilton, and here I am like, but yeah, you know, I am rooting for young Kimi Antonelli to do well. I do think he's got it. He's got it. I really do think he's got it. And we're gonna talk about Isaac Hadjar. Y'all know Isaac Hadjar's got it. I think I genuinely give. What do you mean he qualified 7th? He finished 8th, if I'm correct. 3rd race of the season in a Racing Bulls, not like me with the Mercedes, in a Racing Bulls car, and kept his head down the entire race. And after his poor qualifying session with, the pain that he was in, he was able to keep it together. And he finished the race in the points for Racing Bulls. And, I was curious about this. I was like, who's going to be technically the lead on the Racing Bulls? Would it be Lawson or would it be Hadger? Because you could say it could be Lawson because he got that promotion to the Red Bull team, and then he's had more experience racing in Formula One than Hadger has. But if we keep going the way that we're going with Isaac Hadjar, who's had a really solid season, except for, Melbourne. But since Melbourne, even in Melbourne, though, he qualified really well, but who's had a really solid season. And if he keeps going like this, it would be wrong for Racing Bulls not to favor Isaac Hadjar. It would be really wrong because they're both technically rookies. Technically, I wouldn't really count Logan as not Logan. Oh my gosh, Logan Sargent, where'd you come from? I wouldn't really count Lawson as a rookie because he's had 11 races prior to this season. But you could put up a compelling argument. You could, if you really wanted to. But Oliver Bearman, I guess, no, Oliver Bearman had, 2-3 races under his belt before he raced in Formula One? Because of last year when he was just called in, he was an ultimate reserve driver last year. But those three are really impressing me. Kimi Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar, and Oliver Bearman. Especially for Haas. I want Haas to do so well this season. I am not even kidding. Is this their best start of a Formula One season ever? It might be. They've had a pretty solid start. Which is so interesting to me because the Haas car is not the fastest, as we know, but they're still last week or 2 weeks ago they were in points. This week they got points with Oliver Bearman. And I think their drivers just know how to put it together, and I think the team strategy is really on it this season. And I expect them to finish in points way more often this season. I really, really do. So they're saying that Lance Stroll is the only Aston Martin driver this season to get in the points. No, I'm laughing though, because what do you mean Lance Stroll scored points? Is the only Aston Martin driver so far this season to score points when Alonso is right there? And hello? I'm probably going to say this every single weekend until I figure it out, but I don't know what the heck's going on with that Aston Martin car. I said this at F175 when they brought Thames onto stage. I was like, did you guys use your entire budget on Thames? Shout out to y'all because we love Thames over here, but that car. And also, I don't want to say the drivers. Yes, I'm saying both. I don't want to say the drivers, but should Adrian Newey produce a really great car for Aston Martin next year? It's looking kind of crazy with that lineup right now. I'm not gonna lie. But Lance Stroll finished dead last this race. Did he have damage with his car? I don't know. I didn't see anywhere that they said there was damage. There has to be damage with the weight. How was he so far behind? Alonso was just outside of the points by finishing 11th, but Lance Stroll was 20th. I just don't know. The other two that I want to talk about is Sainz, because he locked up quite a lot this race. Oh, and we're talking about lockups. I don't know why I'm correlating the two. Kimi Antonelli, my kid, you love track limits, bud. I know he's finding his footing, and this is gonna really help him in the future, because he loves to just go right for it, right to the edge. But he definitely got a lap time to lead at this race, maybe more than one. I ain't gonna lie. But Kimi Antonelli figured it out in a good way. Yeah, Sainz is definitely not having the best time at Williams. But if we're gonna be honest, Hamilton's also not having the best time-ish at Ferrari. And when I say best time, what I mean by that is they're both figuring out the cars, especially for two drivers who've been with teams for as long as they have, especially for Lewis Hamilton, who's been with Mercedes and has Mercedes-powered engines for as long as for his entire career until this year. They're really figuring out the cars. Sainz has had a Mercedes-powered engine before with McLaren, so that shouldn't be too crazy for him. But the Williams is a different breed. And Alex Albon knows that Williams. Like I said many, many times before, he knows that Williams. So yeah, not the best start of a season for Sainz, especially. Hamilton, he's had a pretty decent start considering the full Ferrari ways, as we like to say. And I guess I'm not actually going to speak too much on Ferrari this race because they really made no noise. And that's not good, but it's also not bad. I expect Ferrari, when they come with these upgrades in Bahrain, I think that's when they're coming. I literally I want no excuses because there's no way. There's no way. Me being me, I will always have hope for Ferrari. And I definitely think there's going to be a win coming up very soon. But figure it out. Figure it out, please, and thank you, because I can't keep going through this. I need a Ferrari win, Grand Prix win, not just a sprint win. I need a Ferrari Grand Prix win, so please, please, please. What's that Sabrina song? You know, don't embarrass me. Please. And now I really want to get into two things specifically. Very, very specifically. I want to get into two things. McLaren and Red Bull. So how do I get into this? As I mentioned earlier, with Max Verstappen winning this race, that means there's now a 1 point deficit between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. And should Yuki Tsunoda get up to speed in the next few races and be able to be up there with the front runners, McLaren's going to have a hard time. Now, is that Red Bull the fastest car ever? No, but it's still a fast car. Stop calling it a tractor. My guy just got pole position and he won the race. Every car is not a tractor just because they're not winning races. Every car isn't. Yeah, because if the Red Bull is a tractor, and then the Ferrari's a tractor, what the heck is the Kick Sauber car? You tell me. You know, we gotta stop, like, not, please, and stop at the Red Bull has the slowest car, when Ferrari was literally finishing 4th and 7th. Sorry to my team. Please stop, though. Because clearly they have something going on, and Max is able to unlock it, clearly. And Yuki was able to keep up with him during practice sessions as well. So let's just stop at that angle. But what I'm saying is, if Yuki's able to get up there with the front runners in the next few weeks, and if Ferrari's able to do what if Red Bull's able to do what Ferrari did. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? If Red Bull's able to do what Red Bull did this weekend with Max, and they can just continue to get their strategy calls and everything and their pit stops right, it's going to be tough for McLaren. It's going to be tough for McLaren. And on top of that, they've got the likes of Mercedes. George Russell has been consistently he's been only like 2 races, but they have the likes of the Mercedes and sometimes the Ferraris. Hopefully more the Ferraris in the next few races on them as well. So they can't keep doing what they're doing with their strategy. I'm not signing up for that. I didn't sign up for that. But yeah. So we had on lap 18. Oh, I just have to know. I'm going to start from the beginning because Max knew exactly what he needed to do during lap 1 to cover off Lando Norris. The way that car was angled. I said, he's got this. I said, he got this. The minute the lights went out and Max went vroom and covered off that McLaren so perfectly, I was like, no, there's no way he's giving up this win. He loves this track. There's no way he is giving up this win at all. So then, as you know, there was pretty much no overtaking. Suzuka only has 1 DRS zone. And it was just not a possibility. Everyone was just driving in dirty air for the entirety of the race, if we're going to be honest. The tires didn't green, so I guess that's a good thing. But is it a good thing? Because dang, maybe we could have had some more tire wear so we could have a fun race. I don't know. We had lap 18 where McLaren came on the radio and said box to overtake Max on lap 18 when those mediums were doing perfectly fine. And obviously Red Bull was not falling for that bluff, and they didn't fall for that bluff because guess what? Max Verstappen didn't pit, and guess who didn't pit also? Lando Norris. Duh. So that was a bluff, and then they did hit Oscar Piastri, I think a few laps after. No, and then after George Russell had pit, not too sure what was going on there with that. Were they trying to cover off George? Were they trying to favor Oscar for the win? I mean, neither of those really. They did cover off George, but they definitely weren't trying for Oscar to get the win. I can tell you that. And then on lap 22, we had Max Verstappen and Lando Norris both pit. And this is when we had a little bit of action, a little bit of fun this race, because as they were coming throughout the pit exit, they were side by side, and Max got the jump on Lando. Lando ran out of pavement. He ran out of road. He ran out of road and he went into the grass, and then he came on the radio and said Max forced him off. On the replay, I don't think that happened. That's not exactly what happened. Lando, there was just no more road for him to go, and he went on the grass, and Max just got the jump on him, and he continued on his lead. Like I said, there's no way this man was giving up a race win. And I want to talk about the strategy for this one, because everyone was saying, so we had Max Verstappen, who was first, and then we had the two McLarens behind him. And if McLaren were, smarticle particles, this race specifically, they would have got their shot. They could have potentially pit Lando first to get that undercut on Max instead of pitting Oscar first. Either way, it was going to be bad. It was going to be rough because, again, all the cars were just so bunched up together. But yeah, they could have pit Lando first, potentially. Instead of having Lando and Max then pit at the same exact time and screw up a possibility of a race win. And the reason why I knew Max was going to win this race is because Red Bull has been here before. They have been here where they've had one driver, Max Verstappen, lead a race, but the other driver, the second driver, whoever it may be at the very end, and they have not been able to use that second driver for a pit stop, for a strategy call. So they know exactly what they're doing when it comes to having Max lead the race and finish the race on top. Red Bull knows what they're doing in these high intense situations. So the fact that McLaren didn't take that into account makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm not going to lie. Like, they've been here before. Red Bull has been here many, many times. So I'm just so confused as to why they fumbled their pit stop strategy so bad. I guess so. I mean, they still finished second and third, but still, a race win was on the line. A race win was on the line, and you somehow, with two drivers right beside each other, let Max Verstappen and Red Bull win. I'm very confused. I'm very confused by that. And then when we go towards the end, and this is a point of contention for a few people, when Oscar clearly had more space by lap 43 to 53, Oscar clearly had more pace, not space, than his teammate. And he made the call saying, hey, I have more pace. If there's a possibility, let me try and get to Max. McLaren said, no. And you could have the argument, Oscar, if you have more pace, overtake him on merit. That's a fair argument. However, do you want the race win or do you not? If Oscar had more pace, why not give him that opportunity like they've done many times before? We've done this, but we've seen teams do this all the time. We've seen teams do this. We've seen McLaren do this. Why not give him that opportunity? If he can't catch up to Max, guess what? Give Lando his place back. Do we like a race where it's team order, should I say? Not all the time. But at one point, definitely, like, I'm so shocked that they didn't even try. So now what happens when we're in a situation where Oscar's ahead of Lando? Lando clearly has more pace, and they want Oscar to switch, and then Oscar doesn't switch. You can't get mad at Oscar for that. We've been here before. Again, we've been here so many times. But you can't get mad at Oscar for that, because in this race of round 3, if I'm Oscar, I'm saying, well, I have more pace in Japan. I'm so curious. And that's like no shade on the drivers. That's more shade on the team, because I'm just like, what's going on here? Because I know if Lando was in that same position as Oscar, he would be on team radio like, let me try. I can get him. I can get him. Of course he would. We've seen it happen so many times. So what, like, I guess what they don't want to happen is what happened last year, where papaya rules came into place and they lose to Max by a few points because of a team order switch. But right now it's still early days. Oscars want to race, Lando's want to race. Like, it's still so early days that Lando's leading the championship. It's only round 3. We don't know what the heck could happen in the next few rounds. We don't know. Oscar could somehow magically unlock something and start winning races, and now you guys didn't give him that position to at least try to overtake Max, and again you lose the WDC. So McLaren's they got themselves in a little pickle. What they need to do is let their drivers battle it out, Nico Rosberg, Hamilton style, when both drivers had the pace and they said, do what you gotta do, but don't crash into each other. Make sure you win the race. One of you. You know? We're only round 3. Once we're past summer break and all the shebang and we really have a possibility of potentially winning the WDC, then you can, you know, do the whole shebang. But I don't know. I'm just so shocked by this. I'm not that shocked. I'm being really dramatic. I'm not that shocked. I'm just like, interesting. Very curious to see why we didn't at least try. And shout out to Oscar for saying, hey, I tried. I made the call. They said no. Cool. I do wish they let them battle it out a bit. If he even had the pace to battle it out, because if I think by that point, Oscar shot his tires because he was falling behind his teammate who had no pace for 10 laps. You know? Well, that's all I have to say for today. That was all I have to say for today. I can't even speak English. That's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for sitting here and watching this video. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Audio version will go live on Tuesday. And that's all I have for you all today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all in Bahrain.